Get ready to be mad because I'm going to be ranking every single iRacing oval, tier list style. Alright, a couple of very quick disclaimers. Number one is this list will be on my personal enjoyment, so it'll take into account how much I like running the track and how much I like racing on the track, both of them pretty equally. The second thing is this will be through the lens of somebody who only really runs ARCA, Truck, and Xfinity. So if you're kind of a short tracker who's wondering why I have certain opinions on short track, it's because probably I'm driving the ARCA car on it. And then finally, I want to shout out Corey, aka Smilin' Troll on the Discord, for making this tier list. Alright, let's jump into it. First up, we got Atlanta. So Atlanta doesn't have a legacy, so we're not going to have two separate entries for this. So I'm just going to consider this New Atlanta, and I'm going to place it on D. I don't like New Atlanta. I just think that New Atlanta is super speedway racing without anything that makes super speedway racing fun. It just leads to a lot of single line draft trains depending on the car. From what I've seen, A-Fix looks pretty fun in it, but from what I've driven on New Atlanta, I just don't really find it enticing at all. I would much rather drive Talladega, and I don't really even like super speedways to begin with. If this was old Atlanta, I would definitely put it up either an A or S. I really love old Atlanta just because of the worn out surface, how hot it is, the difficulty of getting around there. Auto Club Speedway. This is one of my favorite tracks, I think. I'm going to put it at A for now. And what I love about Auto Club is how it can get multi-groove, how you can drive different lines depending on how worn the tires are. Different lines work in different corners. Some people think that you have to rip the top both sides, but sometimes running the bottom in 3 and 4 is a lot quicker. And it's just those type of races where you have to drive by feel and not just memorizing a single line and running it over and over again. That's probably one of my favorite oval experiences in iRacing. So I'm going to put Auto Club in A. Bristol here. Bristol is actually one of my worst tracks. I'm not good at it at all for whatever reason. But that being said, I still really like the track. The sense of speed is great. You can run different lines in the corners depending on the setup, sometimes even on the same setup. Running right by the wall is really good in some cars. Running right on the bottom. Bottom feeding is so good in some other cars and setups. I just think it's a very interesting track. The Bull Ring. I've actually never raced the Bull Ring before. I don't think I have. Never raced the Bull Ring, and I'm probably not missing out on too much given how little it is on the schedule. Centripetal Circuit, never raced anything on that either. Apparently there was a single official race run on Centripetal Circuit because iRacing forgot to take it off the schedule, as they use it as a placeholder sometimes. So I wish I was in that race, but nope, never raced on it. Charlotte Legacy. I have the same opinion about both Charlottes, I think. They're pretty interchangeable to me, and I think they're both C. And the reason for that is if you're gonna give me a cookie cutter 1.5 mile track, it better have more than one single groove. And the problem with Charlotte is the bottom is always the best. Nothing really ever works. Every once in a while, the middle becomes the play in 3 and 4, but I have not seen that in a long time. It really is just hit your marks on the bottom, cool. As much as it's a fan favorite, I mean, it's fine. It's a good track to race on, I guess, but it's a little too narrow for me, and it's probably one of my least favorite 1.5 mile tracks. Chicagoland. I'm putting this at A. And the reason I'm putting it at A, I was thinking S for a second, but Chicagoland brings out the best in like every car. The truck, for example, the fixed truck series sucks at a lot of the 1.5 mile tracks because of how strong draft is. But Chicagoland is like one of 2 or 3 tracks where the tire wear actually makes a difference at the end of these runs, and you can actually make up time from saving at the beginning of the run, and it's very cool. You don't see that a lot in truck series anymore, and I love Chicagoland. Oh, I've actually never raced on Concord, but that was my fault because I wanted to race it and I tried out the track and I hated it and rage quit. So I think I'm gonna put it at never raced because if I put it at F just because I rage quit it probably wouldn't be fair. Darlington. I love how Darlington drives. One of the most interesting tracks to drive in all of iRacing. But I just don't love how it races. There's just one line, so I'm going to put it in B. And passing at Darlington, if the person in front of you is not cooperating, it is ridiculously hard. You can lose like 2+ seconds from the guys in front of you just trying to find an opportunity to pass the guy at the right time. So you can kind of tell that Darlington was never really meant for racing up there, but the driving experiences, I love Darlington in terms of just pure driving. Here comes my first, well, I've probably had a couple hot takes already. Daytona. I'm gonna put it in C. I think it's better than Atlanta, but I just don't. For one, I don't love super speedway racing. I'm not horrible at it, but I'm passable at it. I just don't find it too enticing to me. But in terms of the actual racing, it can be pretty fun. Obviously, being that close to other cars, I'm not going to deny that. But at the end of the day, I just personally don't enjoy super speedway racing that much, but definitely more than New Atlanta. Dover has the same problem as Darlington, but I think I like driving Dover even more than Darlington. So I'm going to put it up at a low A. This will probably be my lowest A. I like it more than Bristol for sure, and I like it more than Darlington. And Dover is one of those things where you're going to really struggle with multi-groove on the current tire model and how these cars drive, but the way that you have to diamond the corners is just so fun. I love getting my way around Dover and kind of learning how to get that car to rotate under braking. It's some of the most fun in iRacing. First, short track opinion, 5 flags. See, I mean, short tracks are cool, I guess, but 5 flags, I'm gonna put it at C. I'm not a huge short tracking guy. Like I can get by on especially the ARCA car, but 5 flags is one of them that never really stood out to me. Hickory is an interesting one because of how bumpy it is. When tracks are bumpier like Hickory, they kind of add something to the mix. But with the cars I drive, it usually just makes things super tight and unfun to drive. I would be lying if I put it in B, honestly. I'm gonna put this in C again. I'm gonna put it higher than Charlotte though. I think it's more interesting than going to Charlotte. Homestead. All right. Homestead is my first S tier. Homestead is one of my favorite tracks to both drive and race on. You got the multi-groove, which is pretty obvious by what you see in real life and driving right up by the wall. That's all super fun. It's these like tracks that don't have a tri-oval, so regular oval tracks are really good at making these multi-groove situations, and I just love both driving and racing on Homestead. I highly recommend racing this if you haven't yet. Indy's a B for me. Indy's a B for me because with the cars that I drive, not close racing usually. It's pretty fun to drive, definitely different with those 90-degree turns, hitting your marks almost like a road course. I find that pretty fun. But in terms of the actual racing, it's usually either a draft train or you just string out so far you're just time trialing. So I'm going to put it around the B just because I think it's pretty fun to drive. Iowa is another S, and I'm actually going to put it above Homestead because that's how much I like Iowa. Iowa is probably my favorite track on iRacing, period. It just drives with a feeling that it's like an intermediate oval, except it's a short track, short-ish track, 7/8 of a mile. And it's just super duper fun to find the different lines that work. It might be a tiny bit hard to pass at times, but if you're faster than the other car, you can usually find a way around. Depending on the setup too, you can just really make a lot of different lines work, and it's just that sense of speed on the short track, going at the speeds that you are with that banking. Iowa's one of the best. All right, iRacing Super Speedway is my first F. I hate iRacing Super Speedway. I get the idea of bringing Coca-Cola Speedway over to iRacing. I get that it was a COVID project. I don't like driving it. It just is a super speedway that is a little bit too narrow for how stupid fast it is. It doesn't feel real when you're driving it. I know I'm not always the biggest proponent of realism, but it's like, it gets to a point where driving iRacing Super Speedway it brings me out of it when I'm driving. And I don't even really have fun with super speedways to begin with, and so add that all together and it's just a track that I never really feel like driving. Lucas Oil Raceway is an interesting one. IRP, Indianapolis Raceway Park, IRP. I'll give it a B. I'll give it a B. I think that the line is pretty interesting at IRP, usually, depending on the setup. It's like a high diamond line, which I find pretty cool. It's like what people do in real life. I think at Irwindale or something like that. But yeah, the IRP driving experience is pretty fun, but it's another one of those that's kind of hard to pass on because there's really only one good line. So I'm going to put it at B. Irwindale, I like the figure 8. If it was the figure 8, it would be pretty high up. I don't really have a ton of fun driving Irwindale, so I'm going to put it at D just because it just doesn't feel that good to drive. I can't really describe it further than that. I've only raced on there a couple times, one with ARCA. It's a short track that exists. Kansas. Well, I think my biases are going to be starting to come full force here because I put Kansas at A. Again, Sounding like a broken record, really like the multi-groove 1.5 mile cookie cutter experience. Makes for interesting races where you run different lines over the course of the run. So I'll put Kansas up a day. Like the other A's a little bit more. Kentucky Legacy and regular Kentucky. I'm gonna put Legacy Kentucky in low B and New Kentucky in high C. Just because I think that they are okay 1.5 miles. They have kind of like the Charlotte problem. The thing that they have going for them is that they are pretty darn fun to drive with the right setup, especially Legacy when your car gets super loose on corner exit. Very fun to drive, but I can't say that their racing is really ever anything special. So I'm pretty confident with low B for Legacy and high C for first one. Knock Hill Tri-Oval. All right, cool. I mean, I guess I've tested it for a video before. Is it worth being even put on here? I don't think it's ever had an official race. I'll put in never raced for that, but it's kind of dumb. I've never driven a setup that's meant for it either because it's all right hand turning, so I'm just not gonna sweat it. Langley is a weird one. One of my best wins comes at Langley, but did I like driving it that much? I mean, I guess I did because I won. I am going to go above Hickory for Langley. I think that I only driven it on ARCA, so it's probably a lot different in actual short track cars, but the setup was crazy for the ARCA car. So I did kind of have fun with it, but only at like that C level. Lanier is a short track that I can lump into a bunch of other short tracks that all kind of fit the same space in my mind. I don't have any opinions one way or another about it. I'm gonna put it below 5 flags. And this will probably be where all of these short tracks go that I've only driven in the ARCA car that all kind of feel like each other. I guess I've driven it in the street stock before and it's fine. The Coliseum, I don't like driving this. And it's gonna be a problem that we run into a lot with some other short tracks, is that a lot of short track racing on iRacing is not good. And especially in the series with cautions, and that's not even the track's fault, it's just the driver's fault, or really the system's fault for having all these wrecks and cautions and barely getting to run. But the Coliseum is like one of those where everyone just gets run over and it's not really a fun experience at the end of the day. Martinsville, same exact deal. Martinsville is one of my least favorite tracks. I could put it down in F, but I'm going to spare it and put it in D because I will admit it is pretty fun to drive. When you're alone on a track doing testing laps, it is up there in terms of enjoyable tracks in that perspective. The only problem is you will never get a good race anywhere. So for that reason alone, if you're never gonna have a good race at somewhere, I'm never gonna give it a good grade. Legacy Michigan. I don't love these 2 milers where you just have to barely blip out of the throttle. I'm gonna lump the Michigans together because I don't have much difference in opinion off the top of my head between them. I don't like them as much as Kentucky, so I'm going to put them high C. The Mid-Ohio Oval, another right-hand turning oval, not to be confused with the Alt Oval. I don't think it's ever been raced, so I'm going to put it down in the never raced, don't own. Milwaukee Mile is an interesting one. I suck at the Milwaukee Mile, one of my worst tracks, but it's different. It's very, very, very different. And I think I have fun driving it. The racing's never that great on it because it's another single laner, move someone out of the way or wait for them to make a mistake type of track. But I think I have fun at least driving it. More fun than Langley. I'll put it at C. Monza Oval. I mean, I guess we've run this before. Another super speedway track where you can't actually drive like a super speedway track because there's no room in the corners. And when there's a wreck, you're gonna die because of how narrow it is. It's great that it exists in iRacing. I'm not saying it shouldn't exist in iRacing. I just think it sucks. I'm sorry. You've seen my biases. My biases are already so clear on here. You see what you're getting at this point. Have I raced on Myrtle Beach? I think I have. I think I did one ARCA race on Myrtle Beach. And to the point that I don't remember it, I'm just gonna put it low C because if I don't remember it being bad, I don't remember it being good. So C it goes. Fairgrounds. Fairgrounds is an interesting one. I liked it when I was running it in the late model. ARCA car was fine in. I like it more than Milwaukee. We're getting a lot of C's here, but I guess this is kind of like, it's kind of showing my thought process on like what's average and what isn't. Okay, Nashville's an interesting one. A lot of people love Nashville. I don't love Nashville. I like Nashville. Do I like it more than Indy? Yes, I'm gonna put it between Indy and Darlington. I like it. I think that the racing isn't super duper compelling on there, but it's fun enough to drive for me for that shape of the track. New Hampshire is a weird one. I can love or hate New Hampshire depending on the setup. I hate New Hampshire when it's on a tight set, and I love New Hampshire when it's on a loose set. I think that's more the setup's fault than the track's fault though. I'm going to put New Hampshire above IRP and B. I like to say that I hate New Hampshire a lot, but I really only hate it when there's a bad race setup. So I'm gonna go with that. New Smyrna, never raced. I've never raced New Smyrna. North Wilkesboro, I am going to go with... North Wilkesboro is fun, but it's super single groove. Same opinion as Hickory, but I like it a little more. I'm gonna go with that. Another middling C. Oxford Plains, I have never driven in a race. I've driven in hosteds. I think I've driven in enough hosteds to say that I don't really like it, and I'm gonna put it in D because it's not even as fun to drive as Martinsville, so I'm gonna do that. All right, Phoenix Legacy and regular Phoenix. Phoenix Legacy is a low A for me, only because it's a little bit too single groove, but the driving in it is super duper fun. New Phoenix, gonna be a little lower for me. I like it more than Indy, just because the driving isn't as fun on the new configuration. It just feels a little bit too smooth, not as challenging. Pocono Legacy and regular Pocono have no difference in my mind, even though they drive with a little bit differently. I like them. I like them more than New Hampshire. And I like old Pocono slightly more than new Pocono. So I'm going to put those above New Hampshire. I just like 3 different corners, a lot to learn, pretty fun, huge skill difference, fun for me. But the racing is never amazing, which is why it's only in B. Richmond's an odd one. I like Richmond. I'm going to put it at low A. I'm not that good at Richmond, but I like that type of track where it's very dependent on your corner center and how you're able to be rotating through the corner. For a short track, that's really fun. It feels really wide for what it is, so I like that. The Rockingham. I'm also bad at Rockingham, but it's pretty fun. I like it more than IRP. I like it more than New Hampshire. I don't like it more than Pocono. So I'm gonna put that in B as well. I like the Rock. Very rough track, hard to get a handle of, very easy to burn off your right front tire no matter the setup. I like the challenge. South Boston is gonna go in that Lanier, Myrtle Beach. I don't remember driving these tracks even though I know I have. So is Southern National. It's just these short tracks here are just short tracks that I have driven. In my head, they are all the same, and I'd pick them up as I need to. And that's really all it goes to. Stafford is definitely a different type of short track. We just ran that recently. It's good for a short track. It's challenging. You can make moves on people. Sometimes it's also kind of hard to pass sometimes. I like IRP more than it, and I also like Kentucky more than it. I like Michigan more than it. I'm going to put it right behind Fairgrounds. Talladega, it's my favorite super speedway track just because it gives you room to make moves and people are usually battling. I like Talladega a lot more than any other super speedway, and it's probably the pinnacle as far as super speedways go. And the pinnacle of super speedway racing for me is going to be... I like Kentucky more than it though. Okay, I'm gonna put both Kentuckys side by side here and then put Talladega below them because I think Talladega deserves a B. I really enjoy it as much as I can, super speedway racing. All right, Legacy Texas is a Charlotte type deal for me. It's okay. I don't hate driving it, but I'd rather drive other cookie cutters. Old Texas, I will put below the Charlottes. I don't like New Texas. I'm pretty good at it, but it's a one-turn track. You get into turn 1 the right way, and the rest of the lap kind of doesn't even matter. Texas is where I like, New Texas I like dislike in my head. Like I have it as a dislike in my head, and that's worse than these short tracks where I just have no care one way or another. So I'm gonna put it slightly below them. I don't think it's worth a D. I think it's better than these Ds, so I'm just gonna leave it a low C. Have I raced Thompson? If I have, I do not remember racing Thompson. I'm just gonna put put it down here because I have such little recollection of what Thompson even is that I'm just going to put it down in the never raced or don't own. I've probably run a race on it at one point. Twin Ring Motegi, my favorite track to drive. But the thing is it my favorite track to race? It is not. The racing isn't the best on Twin Ring. It's very single groove. But I just love driving this track so much. If you haven't tried this track in a stock car before, you gotta do it. It's so fun to just make laps in. So because it's not the best racing, I'm gonna put it in high A. You know what, I'm gonna put it behind Auto Club. The racing just isn't quite good enough. USA, another, I don't have an opinion one way or another, short track. Then we got Vegas. Vegas is interesting. It's a cookie cutter that sometimes is multi-groove, especially in the long runs. Wide so that you can make moves on it. I like it more than Kentucky. Do I like it more than Pocono? Probably not. I like it more than the Rock. So I'm going to put it between the Rock and the Poconos. And then last one, Worldwide Technology or Gateway. This is like Twin Ring Light for me. I love driving it, not quite as much as Twin Ring, but it's pretty fun. And then the racing just isn't as great as the driving is. I like it more than Darlington. Because I have like the same enjoyment driving Gateway as Darlington, except the racing is slightly better. So I think that's a good place to put it, is on high B. And that is it. So we got our list here. I'm going to leave the link in the description so that you guys can make your list. Overall, pretty happy with this list. Let me know what you think. Which of my takes are the hottest? All right. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all on the track.